Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different with the 2022 Haryana Board Social Science paper. We're not just going to solve it, we're going to take it apart, piece by piece. We'll go through every single question to figure out the patterns and really nail down the core concepts. Think of it as your blueprint for success.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The first thing you need to understand is that this exam is really two tests in one, and each part needs a totally different approach. Part one is what I call the deep dive. That's where you've got your subjective questions, and they really test how well you understand the big ideas. Then you've got part two, the knowledge check, a super fast, rapid-fire round of objective questions. We're going to walk through the whole thing, starting with part one. All right, here we go, part I, the deep dive. This section is all about proving you didn't just memorize a bunch of facts, but that you actually get the concepts, So the secret to scoring big here? Clear, well-structured answers. That's the game. First up, we've got a classic from political science that really gets to the heart of what democracy is all about. So what does political equality actually mean? So the answer really boils down to two super important ideas. The first one is equal vote value. It means that no matter who you are, your vote has the exact same power as anyone else's. The second big idea is the right to contest, which means everyone, and I mean everyone, has an equal shot at running for office. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. Equal voice, equal opportunity. Okay, next up is a comparison question. This one is about a huge moment in India's history of governance, that 1992 constitutional amendment for local government. So what was the big deal? What really changed? And wow, you can see here, this was a total game changer. Before 92, local governments were, kind of weak. But after this amendment, they got real constitutional power. Elections had to happen every 5 years, no excuses. And this is absolutely crucial. At least 1/3 of all the seats were reserved for women, which just opened the doors for so much more inclusion in our democracy at the local level. This next question is really practical, based in the real world. Political parties are the backbone of any democracy, but let's be real, they're not perfect. So what are the biggest hurdles they usually have to deal with? So the answer really hits on four major issues. First off, there's a lack of internal democracy, where all the power is just stuck at the very top. Second, you've got dynastic succession, where leadership is basically passed down like a family heirloom. Third is the growing influence of big money and even crime in politics. And finally, you've got this problem where parties start to seem so similar that voters feel like they don't have a real choice. All right, let's check out the OR option for question 6. These OR questions often get to the very heart of a topic. This one asks about a core principle. Why is sharing power actually a good thing in a democracy? Well, there are two really big reasons. First, there's a practical reason. When you share power between different social groups, especially in a country as diverse as India, you lower the chances of conflict. It just makes for a more stable country. But there's also a deeper, more moral reason. It's literally the spirit of democracy. It makes sure that the people who have to live by the rules actually get a say in making them. Okay, let's switch gears and jump over to geography. This one's a straight-up definition, but it's a super important one for understanding how an economy works. So what are basic or key industries? The easiest way to think about them is as the fundamental building blocks of the economy. Basic industries are the ones that provide the raw materials that other industries need to make stuff. The perfect example is the iron and steel industry, right? It provides the steel that's needed to build cars, machines, buildings, you name it. Without these basic industries, the whole manufacturing sector would just grind to a halt. Here we go, a two-parter. This kind of question tests two different skills: your broad knowledge and how well you know the specifics. So first, what's agriculture? And second, what are the exact conditions you need to grow rice? So let's break this down. First, you've got the general definition. Agriculture is basically the science of farming. Simple enough. But then you have to get specific about rice. The key things to remember here are that it's a kharif, or a monsoon crop, and it's a thirsty plant. It needs high temperatures. We're talking over 25 degrees Celsius and a whole lot of water, more than 100 centimeters of rain. The map question. This is one of those spots where you can score some easy, guaranteed marks if you've done your homework. For this paper, you had to find some key spots like the Koyna and Periyar dams, the Narmada River, and Pardi Port. It's a pure test of your geography knowledge. Okay, moving into economics now. This question is about a really important piece of legislation, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act of 2005, which most people just call MGNREGA. Now, the most important thing to get about MGNREGA is that it's not just another government scheme, it's a legal guarantee. It literally establishes a right to work by promising 100 days of employment to every single rural household. And get this, if the government can't find a job for you, it is legally required to pay you an unemployment allowance. It's an incredibly powerful tool for fighting poverty. And for our last subjective question, we're looking at the big picture of the economy and its three interconnected parts. Think of it like a cycle. It all starts with the primary sector. That's things like farming or mining, where you're getting raw materials. Then, the secondary sector takes those raw materials and manufactures them into goods. And finally, the tertiary sector provides all the services that keep the whole system running, like banking, transportation, and so on. Okay, deep breath. Part I is done and dusted. Now it's time to shift gears and pick up the pace for part 2. This section is all about speed and accuracy. It's a rapid-fire challenge to see how well you can recall those key facts when you're under pressure. Ready? Let's go. First up, political science facts. Let's go. This is all about quick recall. For instance, you needed to know that the Belgian constitution was amended 4 times to handle its diverse population. Another key one, the USA is a coming together federation. And a little closer to home, India's nuclear test happened at Pokhran. See? It's all about having those precise facts right at your fingertips. Now for the geography round. Again, they're testing a wide range of knowledge here. For example, which soil is made from lava flows? That's right, black soil. And a bit of history and geography combined. The very first Earth Summit was held in Rio de Janeiro. You also have to know major infrastructure, like the fact that Chennai is the oldest artificial seaport. And finally, a quick fire round on economics. This is just to make sure you've got the core concepts down. For example, what's the difference between public and private sectors? It all comes down to ownership. You should definitely know the full form of HDI, that's Human Development Index. And a classic question, banking is part of the tertiary or services sector. These are the basics you've got to have down cold. So after going through this entire paper, what's the big takeaway? What did we learn together? Well, it seems like success really boils down to 3 main areas. Having a really solid grasp of democratic principles, being fluent in India's economy and geography, and of course, being able to recall facts with speed and precision. So, how do we turn all this into a winning game plan for you? It's actually pretty simple. Here are 4 things you need to do. 1. Memorize those key definitions. 2. Get really good at those comparison questions. 3. For the objective part, just focus on the hard facts. Dates, places, names. And 4. When you see an or question, always go with the one you feel the most confident about. Look, we've gone through the whole 2022 paper. We didn't just find the answers, we figured out the strategy behind them. You now see the patterns, you know the key topics, and you've got a clear plan. So the only question left is, now that you're better prepared, what topic are you going to revise first? Get to it. You've got this. Good luck.